Hello everyone, and welcome to my Week 9 Power Rankings video. This one's actually going to be pretty quick because this week was actually fairly uneventful, except for one game, which I'll cover in more detail than the rest, but other than that, it was fairly uneventful. And really only two spots changed, so I'll get right into it. Kudo, number 11, hasn't played this week, probably isn't going to change unless he wins, and even if he does win, it's moving 9, 10, and 11. During the 10th week of the season when you neither have a chance, so I don't care. He was going to play Pokemon Master Adam. They haven't played yet, so can't change your rankings, and I didn't really care. Flair played PETA. He actually kept it fairly close, to be fair to him. He didn't play terribly. I think Excadrill and Sand definitely needed to come this game, especially because much like Flair's team, PETA's team's also a hyper-offensive team. It can't afford to take hits, and Excadrill under Sand is going to outrun everything and force everything to take hits because he's not outrunning it unless he puts Rain up. And to put Rain up, he needs to put a Pelipper in front of Excadrill. And if you have Rocks up, Rock Slide can kill that. It was probably a more defensive Pelipper just for that reason, but even then, Sand Excadrill could have done a ton of work this game and probably won it for him. PETA's only way of revenging it was Hawlucha, which can only do it once. So if you have a good switch into Hawlucha, then Hawlucha will effectively only be able to come in and outrun Excadrill once, and you can just switch out and then come back and keep doing more damage if you're able to get Sand up multiple times. Flair evidently didn't know how Hawlucha and Unburden works, which is quite shocking because Kokolucha is everywhere and PETA's used it many times this season, so that shows he did not check replays or really just generally wasn't very aware. Which makes it all the more shocking that he didn't bring Sand Excadrill because he didn't even understand that Lucha would have been his only way to outrun it, so that's a bit more confusing in the end. But outside of that, clicking Swords Dance against Agudra at the end was just a bonehead play. It made no sense. It just showed a lack of awareness of how to play the end game. And, I wouldn't say it's a choke because it was a guaranteed loss unless you got the Iron Head flinch, but you threw away your 20% chance of winning the game, which is 20%. You take it. But when you're Swords Dancing against the Gudra, you're going to 2-hit KO. You know you're going to 2-hit KO the Gudra. You know you're going to 1-hit KO the Koko. Those are the two remaining things. Well, how does Swords Dancing make sense? Because you KO the Gudra with 2 hits, and then you KO the Koko with 1 hit. The Swords Dance is completely unnecessary. It does not offer you any advantage when you would have taken the same amount of turns, while Iron Heading gives you the 20% chance to flinch, and thus 20% chance to win the game. The argument was made that, he didn't expect Earthquake to be coming, or Muddy Water. When PETA has run these in the past, it makes sense to run it, and regardless of whether he was running that or not, Iron Head is still the play, whether you thought he was or not, because there's just no reason to. And even if you were planning on taking a hit, you're probably going to possibly put yourself in a range of a hidden power or something from Koko, whereas if you're at full, you can live it. So yeah, it just really did not make sense. Iron Heading was the play there, gave you the 20% chance to win. But yeah, that's what I have on the match. Jolty got his game done early against Reggie, went over it last week. I was very close between him and the next one being Jeff. Both of them kind of stole wins at some point. Jolty does have the head-to-head over Jeff, but Jeff is in better position right now to make it to playoffs, so I suppose I'll be having Jeff in front, but these two are pretty close at this point. Jeff got destroyed by Hazy quite badly. It just didn't look like Jeff was prepped properly for the game. and made a lot of very nonsensical plays, like going hard into the Volk on the Rose raid where he possibly could have set up with it later, or maybe even set up with it had he not gone hard into it and let it take the damage. He didn't really bring any responses to Rose Raid, and Rose Raid kind of just ran through him when he had a Gobali on his team, which also checked in Nihilego, which luckily didn't come for him, but also would have destroyed him because he had no checks for it. So it just seemed like very poor prep and not great play. Also, bringing Lando into a Ice Beam, or a Lottie that had just used Ice Beam. Also, not sure what's going on there. He may have had a slight chance of winning the game if he went Tyranitar first, but I suppose hindsight is 20/20. But yeah, just not a great showing from Jeff this week. Next, I have Classiel, who played me, and had a few also very questionable plays, but a respectable showing. Classiel, I just really feel bad for him this season, having 2 losses to Jeff and Jolty, which were both incredibly hacks-filled in favor against him, where they turned quite clear wins into losses. And like I said in previous weeks, both of those games he still won if he played them correctly, but the hacks made him lose. So it's a duality where he threw away the game, but he also probably should have won it regardless because of the hacks. So I do feel really bad for him because he's put way worse than his record should be, really, due to hacks. He still has a chance of making playoffs, but yeah, very unfortunate for him that he is this low and really has an outside chance of making playoffs at this point as opposed to really being in the running. Next up, I have Tepig, who got smacked quite badly by D. Winchell this week. So Tepig this week brought a team that was absolutely annihilated by Scarf Earth Power Kyurem, and D. Winchell's brought that quite a few times, so it's quite strange that he didn't seem to see it coming. He didn't bring Sylveon, which was one of the best stops to Kyurem on his team, which really could have helped him a lot this game. And he also allowed his things that could possibly take a hit from Kyurem to really get weakened early on, like his Blastoise and what was his other guy? Weezing, Lopunny. I suppose not so much the other few, but I feel like there's something I'm forgetting about. What did he have on his team? I don't know. I know he brought 4 ground weeks. I guess it was just Lopunny, and that got weakened. But still, brought 4 ground weeks to a game where against someone who often brings Scarf Kyurem and then got destroyed by Scarf Kyurem Earth Power. He really, in terms of breaking... Oh, there's a watch in the background. I hope you don't hear that. It's quite annoying now. In terms of breaking, he really didn't bring the tools he needed to break down D. Winchell's team. Thick Fat Miltank was probably a predictable bring on D. Winchell's part to deal with Victini, but Tepig just did not seem to have a plan to take down D. Winchell. He kept making doubles into Victini just to U-turn. But like, if you're making the doubles to bring in your threat, you need to actually have a game plan to make the threat break the team. But if you're just like making doubles to bring in Victini to get off 20% with a U-turn to bring in Lop to make another double into something else, you're not gaining anything. So you really needed to have a plan of what you're actually going to do with your double to actually make a gain out of it, because all the doubles he made did not reward him with anything, and he just was unable to break his team. So yeah, just didn't bring a plan to break down the team, and lost because of it. Also, the play where he put rocks up with his Shokastaka against Kyurem while it was scarfed into Earth Power was super sketchy in my opinion, because at that point you need to be 100% expecting for D. Winchell to A, consider the Shuka, B, fear it, and then C, decide that it's not worth it to Earth Power the stack attack at that point, which, of course, I do feel is the better play, but you need to be very confident that they're going to make that train of thought, because you put up rocks with the consequence of if he clicked Earth Power again, the game was over. So, very, very ballsy play. It did work out for him, but I think that play was quite questionable. But in the end, it really didn't even get him anywhere or give him the win, so yeah, that's it for Tepig. Number 4, I have PETA, who won against Flair. Probably closer than it should have been against Flair, to be honest. I don't think PETA's matchup was fantastic. It was the hyper offense versus hyper offense, but Flair didn't try and control the weather. And really, something I'm really wondering is why the hell the Lucha didn't have acrobatics, because it was unable to KO the Pidgeot, and that had it had acrobatics, it would have KO'd the Pidgeot and then just won the game. So I'm really a bit confused about that right there. But other than that, it wasn't a horribly played game. He got the win. A few shenanigans, like I mentioned before, on Flair's side, but nothing too big to critique on PETA's side. So I guess in terms of the playoff race, he does have the best differential at this point. Or best differential out of the teams that are in this blob of 4, or technically the number 3 through 6 teams. They've moved up a spot because I'm not counting not counting myself in my rankings. So they appear as the number 2 through 5 teams here. But he has the best differential out of all of them. Therefore, the best chance of making playoffs. But he does have some rough games coming, so we'll see what happens. But I have him below the other two, despite having worse differential due to the caliber of the wins they possess. So at number 3, I have Hazy, who beat down Jeff this week. It was a solid 3-0 or 4-0 victory, something like that. Very good victory for him. He's looking good to make playoffs. Nothing particularly wrong I see, that I saw with his prep or play, really. He just did what he needed to do to beat down Jeff when he really did not prep or play particularly well, and got the win. He has very big wins over Tepig, PETA, Jolty, at this point. So yeah, it's looking very good for him at this point. And yeah, I guess that's all I have to say. Next up, I have D. Winchell, who took down Tepig this week, and for that, I'm moving him up into number 2. Yeah, he played very well. I pretty much agreed with every single play he made. He prepped very well. Everything that Tepig could have brought to deal with him, he had an answer. Every threat Tepig could have brought, he really seemed to have an answer for, and he really did just a fine job of prepping and then playing the game. I really liked the play where he left in floor just against Lopunny and traded for damage, because he understood that put him into range where Rocky Helmet would pretty much nearly kill him. So he was really able to keep Lopunny from doing anything that game. And once Lopunny went down and the Victini and the Miltank was still up, there was just not much Tepig could do to win the game. So not great prep on Tepig's part, fantastic prep on D. Winchell's part, fine play on D. Winchell's part, and that's enough to move into number 2. I accidentally scrolled a bit too early, but I was moving on anyways. To Reggie, we have a number 1, who really, from the rest of the show, is just running away with differential and has the best record. Yeah, he hasn't changed anything since the last rankings, because he played his game early last rankings, but still no reason to move him down. He's crushing everyone in differential. His record's the best. He's just playing well, and really only lost to Tepig at this point because his loss to D Winchell was really mostly due to Hex. So yeah, not too much to say about Reggie. I'm just keeping him at number 1. And that's my rankings for week number 9, and I'll see you next week.